And with the dulcet tones of the Casio, it's the start of another Astro Weather. What's going on, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, and of course, my Astro Weather cat, Miss Peachy. Oh, look at her. Look at her. It's funny, we were having a conversation about cats that are jerks, and I was bragging about my cats were real. Well, Peachy entered the realm of jerkdom today. She's like, I'm going to show you, motherfucker. I can be a jerk just like any other fucking cat. You think I'm special? You think you're special? Peachy, what did you do this morning? So I have a palm tree. It's a nice palm tree. It's placed in the corner of my living room. And this morning, Peachy went over there, decided to use the palm tree as a scratch tree. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Peachy? That's not good. Not good. And, Jasper has some responsibility in this as well. He should be, he should be patrolling Peachy a little bit better, taking care of business on the home front. All right, let's see who we have here. Get in. That model got beat this morning. Ding, 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 ding. Dorian McLean. First in the shout-outs. Then, of course, there's Michael. What's going on, DJ MC? Pedrita Pebbles. Okay. Let's see. We got a prayer request. It's a big one. Apparently, the rains are coming down pretty heavily in Brazil. Good morning, my fellow Chatarians and my dear Robert. I like the dear Robert part. Sending greetings from New York, also asking for some prayers to my friends and family in the south of my country, Brazil, that has been a very difficult time now. The rains there are destroying and erasing cities, killing people, nature, animals. It's truly sad. Wow. So if we zoom out and look at, is it that soon? It's that soon. All right, don't go away. Don't go away. I shall be back. At least it's early in the show. Hold on. Okay, we're back. So my point was that there's a lot of devastating weather happening all across the realm. Here in the United States, we've had devastating tornadoes in Oklahoma. There's a town that it's not there anymore. It is not there anymore. I mean, tornadoes are freaky. I mean, I think extreme weather is freaky. Like the storm stuff, freaky. Watching cars in large pieces of construction equipment and tractor trailers just get tossed around like they're toys during a flood is mind-blowing. To me, it's just mind-blowing. The physics involved in that are just mind-blowing. And then you have these tornadoes that come in and it'll just boom like a bomb that just hits an area and it doesn't exist anymore. So there's a lot of extreme weather happening across the realm. And, sometimes look, of course, I'm completely paranoid when it comes to weather manipulation because we've been watching it for such a long time. and they've had the technology for such a long time, including earthquakes, by the way. So there's always a part of me that's like, okay, well, here we go. They're activating certain devices and certain technologies in order to um, basically reshape the infrastructure and the face of the planet. Of course, you have these intense fires like in Lahaina that just break out of nowhere and essentially destroy everything that's not painted blue. And so when you put all these pieces together, it's and I know that some of this, by the way, is natural. I'm not saying it's all synthetic and it's all weather manipulation and environmental warfare. But even some of that, I think, is uh, a blowback or reaction to the realm itself being manipulated. Right? The planet goes through its own process of self correction. It's always done this. It's always gone through this self correction. Some people will say, well, it's all just a matrix and it's controlled here and it's controlled there. Um, and then maybe that's part of the self correction. But that's what happens. The planet self corrects. But then when you alter the self correction cycle, now you're manipulating the self correction and you're also introducing synthetic means of altering the ecosphere. And then, well, you've got nature out of control. You've got an environmental crisis. You've got climate change. And then you've got a bunch of people rallying against it, right? Anyway, let's just shout out to southern Brazil and everybody who is going through a very hard time right now. And it's not just the weather. There are people that are really, really suffering and having a difficult time with this reality. And of course, they're making it more difficult every day. But you have a choice. You have a choice. In the face of it all, you have a choice. And we are resilient. We are resilient and agile beings. And it helps if you have support. I'm not going to lie. It helps if you have support in your life and you have people that can be there for you. That's why people go to church. It's one of the reasons why my mother was so active in her church, because in its own way, it was a support system. And it started after the passing of my father. And she needed to replace that in her life. She had a massive void in her life. So the church and her community in the church filled that void. And it's not like she said, I really need support because I'm hurting and I'm grieving and I miss my husband. She just inserted herself in that environment and that's what she got. So people do help. Don't get me wrong. They help. At the end of the day, it's all about you and the choices you make and what you do to, I wouldn't say ameliorate, but what you do to fine tune your systems. And we all have our various ways of doing that. But shout out to all the people who are going through some severe times, weather and otherwise. We'll get through this. Veronica's Barn is here. There is a wonderful concert of birds chirping at this hour here. Beautiful. Lovely. Lovely. Sue Leonard, what's happening, Sue? Good to see you. LMM. We know who that is. It's our dear Leela. Catherine Kramer, K2. What's going on, Catherine? Florida in the house. Mary Lee. Road trip 1981. Fine and dandy in SA. Keeping up the positivism. That's it, man. It all starts and ends with you. And me and you and me and you. Jackie Delario. Maybe a stormy May day in South Jersey. Batten down the hatches. Helian Heart Rosie. Today's a good day to buy a car. It is. You know what else is a good day today? It's a good day to watch Astro Dads debuting at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on this channel. And I'm gonna be incredibly bold. And I'm going to say that I don't think there's two dudes who are dads who are doing astrology shows on YouTube. I think this might be the first. Of course, it was inspired by our good friend Dr. Longo and Al Dog, who were doing Astro Chads. And I'm thought, I'm a little outside the Chad demographic, maybe, but I'm not outside the dad demographic. So let's do Astro Dads. And Ferris, who I think is in chat today, did a fantastic job on the first episode. So please join us tonight at 7 p.m. Let's see who else we have. Speaking of T. Jordan, that's where he is right there with the wrench. Tom has always got my back. Last night it was late and I was putting the shows together and I had the wrong date. And Tom texted me, Robert, you've got the wrong date this morning. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Maria de Ange. Et tutti. Flat Earth hippies here. There he is, the man himself, Ferris Gallion. Good to see you here bright and early. Ryan, my man, introspective woodworker. He's here. Nora Rashid, the queen of speed. She's in the house, living life with the pedal to the metal. Laura E. There's Dorian again, soul traveler. A cardinal has been at the window 3 days now. That's a sign of good fortune, apparently. Misbehaving too. Misbehaving two's here. The lovely and talented one. The best holistic dentist in the whole state of Texas. Dr. Joan S. is here. Might even extend beyond Texas. All I do know about Texas holistic dentists. So I can make that claim. Orlando's cup of coffee with Scream, Southwest Virginia. I hope you're doing well down there. Especially all you people down in the Carolinas and the Alabamas and the Mississippis. Justin Zagarella. What's up, Justin? South in the house. Speaking of South, there's Thor by the door, representing little Florida. Cats and Dolls, Times Square. What's up, Times Square? PMSO, Janine, Arizona. Jeff Rosen Videos, more Florida. Dova Haza, Buenos. Moira, NYC. Peachy is pretty fucking adorable. I know, right? She knows it too. He knows it. She's like, I'm so adorable. I can get away with shit. Jay Schaefer, another Arizona early riser. What's going on, Jay? Lisa Ann White. Hey. Sharon Lewis. Peachy, scratch that. No, Peachy, don't scratch that palm tree. I want it to live. I like that palm tree. Christina Jerzik, what's happening, Christina? Good to see you. And Christina and I go way back to Facebook. Way back. Man, that brings me back to there was a time on Facebook where I'm sorry, I have to just put it in a bit of a box. But there was a very powerful, like, Black astrology community on Facebook. And I used to be on their shows all the time. They'd be on my shows. And some of those guys were really good astrologers. Like Ra Aku, the cosmophysician, was a great astrologer. And Christina kind of loops back to that world. Those were really cool times. But fucked it up? Obama fucked that up. Obama and all. I'm sorry. I don't want to get off course. Anyway. Joloff from Vegas, Kelly B. Who knows where Kelly B is from or where she's at? She's like our Where's Waldo. Rich J. Mike Johnson was pictured with Biden holding a photo of twins. Heard your 15 minutes that other day about twinning. Mike Johnson, I'm telling you right now, if I could get odds on Mike Johnson being the next president somewhere, I would put money on that. Probably not what you want to hear, but I'd put money on that. I just knew he was going to say Africa. Peaches just being a typical cat scratching trees is readily available. I know. But Jasper never did that shit. Jasper doesn't do that. Jasper has some decorum. Let's see. I always source my McMahon, SMM for short. What's happening? Raining. It's raining all over the world. Crab Gemini is here. We got a link to the flooding in Brazil. Thank you, Tom. The weather in Brazil is happening now is horrible. We're getting some feedback. Wow. Okay. Prayers for the Brazilian people. Man, the Brazilian people have a rough time. They've had a rough time for a long time. Brazil is one of those countries that has so much potential, huge resources, and a good spirit. You know, people of Brazil have a good spirit, but man, they just deal with, shitty leadership and corruption and exploitation. And it's just, it's always been one of the look, by the way, I'm on the record. I love Brazilian music. I'm a huge Tropicalismo fan. And I love Brazilian cinema and Brazilian food. I'm a big Brazil fan. So anyway, let's just hope that they get through it. We all get through it. Esperanza Vence Tarot is here. What's happening? Nora has given us some atmospheric feedback from New Mexico, where it's usually pretty stable. Claire is here checking in from Scotland. Exnard Prime, do you know what the occult science is behind the St. Louis Arch? Yeah, that it protects it from tornadoes. We got into that a little bit with Chad Stumpke a long time ago on Friday Farcast. We talked about the St. Louis Arch, which was created by, of course, Freemasons. There she is. Mad Maxine, Lynette Jardine, she's here. You've had a drought in southern Florida for 2 months. Only real tough guys do weather wars, I know, right? Let's see, who else do we have here? I think we're pretty much caught up. Melissa Stanton, speaking of Florida, Terry Catterley, James Turkart from East Germany. He's back. Scott, it's not just Christina, but Scott is here too. What's going on, Scott? Jersey's representing. All right. Anything else? Let's see. Earth signs, all about order. So if Taurus is foundational or Virgo is intense micromanagement, intellect, or does that make Capricorn ambitious? So here's what I like. Here's my Earth model. Taurus is all about extraction of material and the management of material, right? That's what it's about. Extraction, management. And then what does Virgo do? Virgo refines and distributes material. That's what Virgo does. It refines and distributes. Also provides customer service. And Capricorn is the CEO. Capricorn is the overseer of the Earth process. So Exnard Prime, you're all over it. Good call. Let's see. Brandy's with us. Anybody else? Julie Costner, Kabuki Theater Bow, lives outdoors. Guy Travelogue. I'm just trying to get through to the end. I think we're almost there. Harriet Bowie. Hey. All right, let's get going. Hanging laundry. We're hanging laundry. Hit the like, subscribe. If you feel so inclined, buy me a cup of coffee. My coffee's empty. Well, now it is. And of course, don't forget our good friends at True Hemp Science, which we will address a bit later. Let's get into the weather. All right. Okay. 8 May, 8 a.m., San Antonio, California. So the coordinates are correct. As of right now, or 20 minutes ago, there's our moon So we are officially in new moon territory. And I did some new moon shit yesterday. I made an appointment to get my hair cut, happening today. And I got an eye exam yesterday, right? Re-upped my prescription for glasses. By the way, that's one of there are some things about getting older that kind of suck, and I think some of you may relate to this. And one of them is eyesight. When I was a kid, I had perfect vision, and now, it's not as perfect as it used to be. But yeah, we got some more new moon magic coming again with Astro Dad, 7 p.m. right here on this channel. I think the energy today, unfortunately, if you're in Brazil or any other part of the world where your life is being stressed by conditions you have no control over, the energy, other than that, the energy is good. There's good energy today. Look at all this Taurus just lined up. It is a fruitful day. And here's the thing that I really like about this Moon Uranus conjunction is that when you deal with intentionality, right? You deal with intentionality when you like are clearly going to initiate something as part of a new cycle. It's not just any new moon. It's like a new moon with a freaking turbo attached to it. And then there's Jupiter, which means that the fruits of your labors or the fruits of your intentions can sprout rather quickly. So do not sleep on this moon. I'm telling you, this is a really powerful phase of the moon. And it, it get your house in order. Get your house in order. Whistle while you work and get your house in order. The other thing too with this Moon Uranus conjunction is if you're going to set something in motion that you want to be creative about it. You know, Uranus really honors creativity. You know, and I've said this before with the outer planets, like Neptune and Pluto and Uranus. Of the three outer planets, Uranus is the one that you can have the most plasticity with. We'll use that word plasticity. Well, what do I mean by that? When you deal with Pluto, you don't deal with Pluto. Pluto deals with you. That's it. You are in the cauldron with Pluto, and then you get melted down, and whatever's left is whatever's left, right? It is really about vulcanization. Of all the planets, it has the most alchemical potential. And you don't strike deals with Pluto. You just go through it and you become transformed. And the more you fight it, the harder it gets. Neptune, things can happen with Neptune, things that can be out of your control. But the strategy with Neptune is to surrender, let go, maybe a little prayer to have the strength to let go. What is it? To accept the things I can't control and change the things I can, something like that. That's very Neptunian. We just got to let it go. There is a strategy. It's surrender, let go, and just wait for the water level to rise again. Right. But with Uranus, if you're creative, you can interact with the energy. So the energy is not destructive in some ways, because that's Uranus's, if we look at these things as elements inside of, this larger kind of system, right? This ecosystem of personal change, growth, evolution, right? Uranus's sort of raison d'etre is to be creative and destructive. So if you are creative, and especially if you're going through a Uranian cycle, then there's a very good chance that you can ameliorate the destruction. But in order to be creative, you have to step outside the box. You have to challenge convention, right? That is the nature of Uranus, but it's something that you can work with. And if you don't work with it, it'll work with you. And trust me, it's much better to be creative and use that Uranian energy to be novel, right? Versus it kind of imploding on you. And it's like, oh, I got to change my life. So Uranus gives you the opportunity to creatively change your life versus it destructively changing your life, right? So there's a few little tidbits there with the outer planets. So today, with the moon conjunct Uranus, and it's like almost bang on 23, 22. It's giving you the opportunity to set things in motion, not just in a creative way, but with Jupiter here, it's much bigger. I like it. I really like it. If you're looking for housing, right, this is also really good to consider different or alternative types of dwellings. So I know some of you out there are cruising around and looking for your place in the world, or maybe you're not happy with where you are. But this is a really good aspect to explore what's out there in areas or places or structures that you haven't really thought about before. Yeah, I'm just kind of hyping up this stellium because I think it's a really good stellium. And even with Venus, Venus is now in that wide separation mode from Pluto. So Pluto's moving backwards. Venus tomorrow will be at 12 degrees and it'll be out of the square. So all of these Taurus planets will be, pretty unencumbered, except when we deal with the sextile going on with Saturn and Neptune, right? So water and earth. It's a very fertile combination, and maybe there are places where they're getting too much water, unfortunately. But the elements in general are they're prime. They're primed to plant a new garden, whatever that metaphorical garden is. And I really like Saturn here in Pisces because it also um, gives some staying power. In as much as Taurus is fixed, that's the other side of all this, right? Taurus is a fixed sign. So what you lock in is what you lock in. So lock in at the highest and best level that you think you can, and do so with a sense of optimism. Jupiter is optimistic. Saturn provides the staying power. Saturn provides the the direction of the overseer with whatever projects or whatever new intentionality you're bringing to the table. And the thing I really, sometimes Taurus can drop into gross materialism. That's like the darkest side of Taurus. It's just, collecting things and becoming a hoarder, and especially with Jupiter and Taurus. Like that's the downside of Taurus, is to be mired in gross materialism. But Saturn here tempers that, right? Saturn sort of brings in a bit of Saturn's always linked to sort of limitations and austerity and less is more, right? So we're blending some of that with this Taurus energy, and it's purposeful. So the idea is, you could ask them, well, do I really need that? Do I really need that? And the answer might be yes, or the answer might be no. Or hey, I do need that, but maybe I don't need such an extravagant version of that. Oh, this'll work. This'll work. Might be better. Might be more economical. Hey, I might have some money left over to do something else. But I also feel like with Saturn and Pisces, it's almost like the celestial blessing. It's a celestial blessing. It's you know the the holy water that's sanctifying your intentionality. So you want to bring that into the mix, right? You want to bring it into the mix, and that's part of the story. Giving thanks, like thank you, thank you. They're again bringing it back to the beginning of the show. There are a lot of people going through a lot of shit. Weather shit, weathering the storms of their own personal life, right? Saturn and Pisces in this position says, hey, give a little thanks here and your blessings will be multiplied. I'll never forget there was this one guy. I used to go to this bookstore in San Mateo. And it was this great bookstore. This guy was really ambitious, really, really ambitious in terms of his the scale and the scope of the books. And they had espresso machine there. I used to go there a lot. And I got to know him just a little bit through this crazy ass Gemini I was dating. And we got onto it. And it was just one of those weird kind of moments in passing where you talk for about 5 minutes. And the crazy ass Gemini was talking about gratitude and being grateful for certain things. And he kind of flipped the script on it and he said, I have a bit of a different take on that. And she said, well, what is it? And it was basically, well, it's all mine, right? It's all mine. And it was kind of Nietzschean in some ways, right? Like I don't have to go through some kind of third party in order to validate my good fortune. That's kind of what he was saying in some ways, and it was a bold statement. It was kind of like, yeah, he's kind of owning the whole thing. And it's his hard work and he put it on his back and he made this happen. And there were a lot of things in that moment. I was like, oh, that's a really interesting point of view. And then I remember at one point driving past the bookstore and it was closed and went out of business. And it wasn't like it was next week or next month, but it was maybe 2 years after that. And it had the quality to be like an institution in that downtown San Mateo area. And I thought to myself, well, maybe he should have given a little bit more thanks. Just saying. I got weird stories about that place. Another time. Anyway, Mars, Aries, 6 degrees. Oh, kicking in with old Mike Johnson's Mars. Mike Johnson has Mars and Aries. Have you seen that he's got a vendetta list now? He's going to go after the Republicans who have opposed him. I'm telling you, man, Mike Johnson, he may look like Mr. Button Up, Mr. Hair in every perfect place. But Mike Johnson, God forbid he is president. God forbid he is president. But the other thing that's weird about Mike Johnson. Okay, so I was looking through his family photos because he says there's a video where he talks about he has a black son, and his black son doesn't have the same challenges as his white son, and that they're both really good kids. But I can tell you right now that their challenges are different. And there is a distinct difference between being black in America and white in America. And we have to address that. Par for the course with Mike Johnson. So I'm going through all his family photos. I'm like, where's the black kid? I don't see any black kids here. I see a lot of white kids. Big white family, big white, white bread family. But you have to keep digging. And eventually, if you dig deep enough, you'll run into Mike Johnson's black son, which he adopted. The guy's like 40 plus. And this is how manipulative this man is. I'm thinking that both these kids are going to high school, right? And, one is having a harder time because, maybe the kids at the high school are giving him a hard time. And his other one is captain of the football team. Dude's fucking 40 plus years old. He was adopted by the Johnsons when he was 14. He left when he was 18. So basically he spent about 4 years with them. And after he left them, his life has been one series of arrests or rehabs or stints in jail, like numerous, multiple. And moving everywhere. Like maybe Mike, maybe it's more the individual than the particular race. Now you may have adopted somebody who was damaged goods, right? And maybe that was a byproduct of his family upbringing and socioeconomic factors. I'm not going to discount that. But at the end of the day, it is so fucking disingenuous to make this statement that both of his kids, don't have the same opportunity. Mike, he's 40 fucking years old. He's not a kid. Mike Johnson is he's my new punching board, by the way. He's my new dartboard. Mercury conjunct Chiron. We've been talking about that. How's your communication going? Is your communication healing? Or are you how would I say this? Are you integrating? Are you integrating the potential to state your own position while also holding space for another? And I know that sounds fucking new agey, but that's what it's about. Right? It's not about abandoning your position and being deferential to another. It's like, yes, I have a position and you have a position, and let's sort it out. Let's understand it. Let's talk about it. Let's not assume anything, because that's what this Chiron Mercury conjunction is about. And Mercury's starting to separate now. And sometimes you don't have to be nice. Sometimes the Mercury Chiron conjunction, it's also about, I would say, defending and protecting your position, in which case you have to be proactive, which is what Aries is all about. And Mercury's coming up here, getting ready to come in and do a much harder square with Pluto. That's going to be intense. We're not quite there yet. Like when it moves into Taurus, and we have that Mercury Pluto square with Taurus, that'll be much. So we'll hold off on that. As Mercury gets closer to that square, we'll get into it more. Pallas moved into Sagittarius, and now it's retrograde. I don't know how long it's going to be retrograde for. Juno is in Virgo, which is good if you are managing your new creations or your new intentionality. And Ceres is in Capricorn. So that brings us back to the beginning of the conversation, which is all about the earth signs. Extraction of material, production of material, distribution of material, the management of that distribution, and then management of the entire operation. We also have some trines going on here. Jupiter, get ready to kick into that trine with Pluto, because we have Jupiter in Gemini coming up. Boy, howdy. That is going to be fucking crazy. Talk about twins. All right. Let us get into our True Hemp Science Star of the Day. And before I do that, I got to get into the banner. It's our banner moment. There we go. All right. And of course, our good friend Chris over at True Hemp Science is the only sponsor of this show, besides myself, Robert Phoenix, and the Most High, the creator of the created universe, the invisible partner, the silent partner in it all. But True Hemp Science is good stuff. Great products. All you got to do is go there, type in 15MINS, and you will get a nice goodie bag, an abundant little stash of products that Chris includes with your order. $150 or more gets you free shipping, and there is always a 30-day money-back guarantee. Don't forget 15MINS and be the recipient of all of that largesse. All right, let's get into our star of the day. Very interesting star of the day. Not that Tracy Lords wasn't interesting. It was very interesting. Today's star of the day is Keith Jarrett. Some of you may be familiar with Keith Jarrett. Some of you may not be familiar with Keith Jarrett. Keith Jarrett is generally considered one of the greatest piano players of the 20th century. He was a child prodigy. He cut his teeth with Miles Davis and Charles Lloyd. The great Charles Lloyd record, Charles Lloyd Live, which I believe was recorded at Winterland or the Fillmore, I forget which one, but it's definitely San Francisco. And it's one of the great jazz recordings of all time. Charles Lloyd on sax, Cecil McBee on bass, Keith Jarrett on piano. I believe the drummer is Rashid Ali, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not Rashid Ali, it's Jack DeJohnette, but I think it's Rashid Ali. And Forest Flower is one of my favorite jazz tracks of all time. But Keith Jarrett would go on to create a number of solo records, and most of them recorded live. Not all of them, but the big ones. And this is the biggie right here, the Cone concert. And when I had a music appreciation class in junior college, and our teacher played Keith Jarrett. It was the first time I heard Keith Jarrett, and my mind was blown, just absolutely blown. I said, I gotta get this record. It's one of the most amazing recordings I've ever heard. And what made it amazing? It was the joy, the depth. It was like, four sides of the greatest tonal painting you've ever heard. And I thought, oh, this is just four sides of solo piano. I'm going to be bored shitless. No, it's not the case. It was actually, it's incredible. And what's interesting about the chart, because I was trying to make, like, where's Keith in the chart, which is what we try to do here. Excuse me. And there's a couple things where you can see Keith Jarrett in the chart. There's some aspects. One is Pluto in the ninth house. And, he was born in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It's so funny that Billy Joel sings about Allentown. And it's all about, sort of the Rust Belt and, how, life was a certain way there. And the steel mills have gone away. But that's where Keith Jarrett's from. Keith Jarrett, one of the greatest composers, improvisers, and pianists of our time, was born in Allentown, Pennsylvania. The Vulcan, fiery furnace of America, right? The steel belt, the Rust Belt produces Keith Jarrett. And he, this record, of course, is recorded in Köln. I believe it's called Köln. And that's very ninth house. Like, Keith Jarrett was more popular, like many jazz musicians, in Europe. More popular in Europe. There's another huge box set called the Sun Bear Concerts. And that was recorded in, I believe, in Japan, maybe specifically Tokyo. So he really makes his mark in places outside of the United States. And even his label, ECM, is a German label. So we have Pluto in the ninth house. And what's it doing? It's trining all of these planets that he has in Aries. And the thing that you notice, that when Keith Jarrett plays, you don't just hear him tinkling the ivories. You will hear him, right? He will moan. He will sigh. And you would think, well, that's, histrionic. It's not. It conveys the emotion that the guy is playing with. And so you can see this Mars Moon conjunction as a transmitter of that emotion. And I think that while he has played records that were like Brahms and Debussy, and he's reading sheet music as it was written by the composers, um, Jarrett's stock and trade is improvisation. And I think when you get into like this Moon Mars conjunction, everything is in the now, right? It's in the now. That's Aries. And all those planets are in his fifth house. The fifth house is creative. It's Leo's house. And so he's taking the energy of that fifth house and the immediacy of performing in an environment where, he's kind of a, bird on a wire, right? And he's bringing it up to Pluto up here in the ninth house with spectacular results. Spectacular results. Um, the odd thing about Jarrett is that when you look at him, like especially during this period, he looks like he's a light-skinned African American, light-skinned black guy, right? It's weird. And there was a period where there were critics who were on his case for appropriating blackness because he was in the jazz idiom. And because Keith Jarrett is not black. And I'm not saying that he was going out of his way to look black. He wasn't the Rachel Dolezal of jazz. He never said I'm black. He never said he was anything. He was just Keith Jarrett, the piano player. But if you look at this picture and you look at much more recent photos, by the way, Keith's had strokes and he's not well. He hasn't recorded or performed anything since 2018. He looks very European. And it's because his mother is Croatian and she's she's blonde. And his father is of mostly German descent. Now here's where it gets interesting, because when I was going through, because I was texting back and forth with our good friend Robin last night about this, and he said, "Well, his mother is African." Sorry, I mean it's kind of funny because I really had to go in because I was curious, right? I'm a fucking Scorpio rising. I want to know what's going on with Keith Jarrett's background because I'm fascinated, right? And I find this picture of his mother. It's like, wow, that woman is not African. And his father is roughly of Scott, mostly German descent. And so I tried to find pictures of Keith Jarrett's father. I can't find anything. I can barely find a picture of his mother. It's there. I had to look at a Croatian newspaper in order to see it, right? But it was there. And it's the mystery. It is the mystery of Keith Jarrett's family. It is the mystery of the family. We don't know. We just don't know, right? We don't know if his father was really his father, right? We don't know. We only know on paper, thanks to Wikipedia. But it's the eighth house. And the eighth house is this occulted area of the chart. And in Cancer, it's all about the family. There's Saturn, there's the father. And there's problems with the father, right? Saturn square Mars, Saturn square Moon. What else do we have here? Saturn squaring Neptune, right? So there's problems with the father. And there's even problems with authority. Keith Jarrett is going to do his shit on his own. He's got some sons, and they all play jazz, right? So he has fathered some creative offspring for sure. The other thing about Keith Jarrett, and where we can find him in the chart, is that he's incredibly fussy. With Jupiter in Virgo midheaven, Chiron in Virgo, so he's certainly has some health issues. And they've kind of been ongoing, but in recent years, they've gotten worse. But very fussy with things like the concert space, even people in the audience, right? Like if you're at a Keith Jarrett concert or back in the day, you had to be respectful of Keith Jarrett because he would not tolerate people that weren't there to listen to the music. I would say he was almost like the Bobby Fischer of jazz, except without the vehement hatred towards his own people, right? So he's very, very particular, extremely particular. But he's got that Sun Jupiter trine. And when you listen to Jarrett's music, it's expansive. It takes you places. It just takes you places. And I think his music is also very healing. And I don't think Keith Jarrett would set out and say, I'm going to create a healing record. I wouldn't say that. He wouldn't say that. But if you listen, by the way, if I were to say there are 10 records that you have to own or at least listen to before you die, this is one of them. And try to listen to it on something other than Spotify. I'm just saying. Because it's truly one of the landmark recordings of our time. Spiritually, he was a follower of Gurdjieff. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was involved in the soundtrack to might have been Meetings with Remarkable Men, which was the cinematic portrayal of Gurdjieff, a lifelong Gurdjieffian. Keith Jarrett, what a talent. And what a mysterious guy. Relationships and marriages haven't necessarily gone well for Keith. I think he's had multiples, but he's managed to have a family, create a family, have kids, and his kids have followed in his tradition, which I think is a lot of Saturn in the true node in the 8th house. Very private guy, extremely private, but a creative tour de force right there. Right there. That is the creative life spring emanating out of that 5th house, really erupting into the 9th house and being recorded and appreciated and captured in places far removed from Allentown. All right. That's it, boys and girls. There's your star of the day, Keith Jarrett. That's been your Astro Weather. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I hope you enjoy this day, this blessed day, and come hang out with us over on 15 Minutes. And we're going to track what's happening in Rafa, which is the latest of the desert redevelopment program by the IDF, Bibi Netanyahu, in the state of Israel. It's really not genocide. It's just a desert redevelopment program. That's all it is. Nothing more. We shall see. All right. Thanks for being here once again. Hit the thumbs up. Buy me a cup of coffee if you like. Everybody that's bought me a cup of coffee, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you again. Chataria, you are my cup of coffee. Take care. God bless. Love you all. Bye for now.